Last week we told you about a journalist from Boulder who wrote what she calls a manifesto on women's health.
And today, to help celebrate Women's History Month, we're talking to her in person because we still have more questions. Meghan Rabbit joins us in the studio. If somebody missed that story last week, tell us a little bit more about this book and what inspired you.
Yeah, I wrote this book over the course of 3 years. I interviewed over 100 all-female experts, doctors, researchers, scientists, to really bring women the information we need about our bodies that we often don't get. We just don't get a health education if we don't go into med school, say, so that we really can care for ourselves and advocate for the care we need and deserve.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, because this, as you say, is not a small book for your first time. It's like 700 pages. You really wrote the manifesto. I'm wondering, at what point in a woman's life were you most surprised at what you found?
Oh, every point in our lives, honestly. Yeah. You know, you see sticky notes in there, and that's why I think my hope is that readers see this and they're like, whoa, that's big. But you can tuck in and tuck out of it based on what life stage you're in, right? So a woman who's in perimenopause might skip right towards the menopause chapter and say, what are the symptoms I need to keep on my radar? What do I need to be bringing up with my doctor so that I get care? There's a section on puberty. There's a section on anatomy, because so many of us just don't get the education about our bodies we need. And so I found surprises at every turn.
It reminds me of the book that you read when you're having a baby, What to Expect When You're Expecting.
When you're expecting.
But in part because you could go to the section, you know, and to be fair, sometimes I think women in particular are guilty of this. We think, well, clearly every other woman has gone through this. I'm just gonna move on by. And this is not that big of a deal. Like, women have babies every day. Why in the world am I struggling? And things like that.
Yeah, we downplay our own symptoms so often. And I think oftentimes it's because we don't even know when to call our doctor, right? We don't know what's normal and what's not. And then I think sometimes there's a lot of shame involved, and we feel ashamed and we don't want to bring something up with our doctors. And that just has to end. Every doctor I talked to for this book said women have to ditch the shame we have and around our bodies. We need to talk about what's going on.
Yeah. No more guilt.
Yeah, you said women are guilty of that. I don't think women are guilty of anything. Just to preface this with, you all do everything right. However, I think what we were just talking about this before we came back on the air, specifically with the menopause stage and how doctors are just not. They weren't taught it. You have a stat in this book that blows my mind, and you interviewed actually a friend of mine, Dr. Elizabeth Coleman, who writes about it.
Yeah, I mean, so a large number of medical school residents were surveyed. 20% said they didn't even get one lecture on menopause in med school. And only 7% said they feel adequately trained to treat women in menopause. And when you think about it, we are 51% of the population. You know, luckily this is changing. A lot of female physicians and researchers are banding together to really talk about menopause and to say, I didn't get the education I needed, so I educated myself, and now they're educating other doctors. But it's pretty remarkable, isn't it?
Well, we talked about this. We think you have definitely another book in you after doing this. And it's neat that you're doing this for Women's History Month, that we're having you out here. I sense, because like during COVID, a lot of focus on mental health, our young people aren't afraid to say, I need somebody to talk to. Maybe the young women of the future are the ones that are really going to change some things in this area.
I think you are absolutely right. I think that young people blow my mind these days. They are doing things like giving up alcohol and being proud of it, whereas I think those of us in mid-age and beyond are sort of like, we want our glass of wine. They are talking about their health without the shame and taboo that has been surrounding women's health topics for so long. And I think we have a lot to learn from our young people.
And you know what helps? Books like this.
Yes.
The discussion. As you said, talking about the folks who are banding together specifically about menopause. Like, if you don't do that, what are you going to do? So
tell our girls and teens, raise your voice.
And start reading the books before you get to that stage in your life.
Totally.
Megan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait for the next one.
Thank you so much.